tonight, I'm talking to the parents, grandparents, aunties, whomever. We are talking about emotional intelligence for parents. We are going to talk about why you should even care about your child being emotionally intelligent. We're going to talk about how you may have to heal in order to create a safe space for your child. And what else are we going to talk about? We are going to talk about common triggers that you may be experiencing as a parent. Yeah, just lots of things. Things that I think are important for parents to be mindful of when it comes to raising children. So if you know a parent that needs to be here, go ahead and share this with them. If you guys have never seen me before, I am Erin. I am a relationship coach. Specifically, I am an emotional intelligence coach. And so I work with women to help them improve their emotional intelligence so they know how to communicate better. They can communicate with confidence. They can know how to resolve conflict in their relationships and strengthen their connections, first with themselves and then their partners. By trade, I am an attorney, and so I also use my conflict resolution skills plus the things that I have learned just in my own personal journey to help you guys with all of this. I believe that emotional intelligence is probably one of the most important skills that you can have. I think it is a game changer. Another reason I think it's important, not just for kids, but for also just humans. Emotional intelligence is a greater predictor of success than IQ. So your IQ is something that you're born with. Like, you can't change your IQ, how intelligent you are, but your emotional intelligence is something that you can change and improve. So again, if you guys know anybody that needs to be in this class, please go ahead and share this. I would love to have people in here. We only have 2 more classes after this. And then I am not teaching for the summer. Like I have said, I will only be in my membership community. We are doing a self-aware summer where we are digging deeper into the concepts that we have started talking about here in class. So where every Thursday I get up here and I give you guys tips and lists and things to be mindful of and, secrets and tools. In theory, this summer, we are going to get a lot deeper into your business. So it's going to be a lot more about the application. So yes, I've told you do 1, 2, 3, 4 to process your emotions. This summer, in the self-aware summer, we're really going to sit and process your emotions. So that is me. You guys know the rules. This has to be a safe space. The things that we talk about are sensitive in nature, and the only way that this class works and is helpful is if we maintain a safe space. You guys know, no projecting. You can share your experience, but don't assume that other people have your experience in that same vein. No generalizing. So no all men this, all women that, because it's just not true. Again, you can share your experience with a certain person, but don't assume that is everybody else's experience or that everybody is like the person that you have experienced. And then lastly, be honest with yourself. Okay, so let's go over why you should even care about your child being emotionally intelligent. Like I said, studies show that children with high EQ, they are more likely to succeed academically. They form strong or healthier relationships, which makes sense, right? Think about people that you have encountered, right? Maybe potential romantic partners that lacked emotional intelligence. They didn't just grow up and forget it. They never had it, right? They were never taught it. So when your children are emotionally intelligent, they grow up to obviously be emotionally intelligent people, adults, and form stronger relationships. They learn how to manage stress and conflict well, right? I'm sure we all know somebody that as soon as something happens, their whole world is turned upside down and they have no idea how to problem solve, how to resolve conflict. But we're going to talk about how you teach your child that, and they learn how to make better decisions. Okay. In contrast, when a child lacks emotional intelligence, right, that's when they have behavioral issues. You see a lot of fighting, right? Anger is an easy emotion to display. And so when you don't know how to self-regulate, or you don't know how to identify your other emotions, anger is a default for a lot of people, right? And we see this often, right? If a child is having issues at home, right, they may fight at school. Makes sense. Poor social skills, their academics suffer. A lot of these things I'm sure you guys understand, which is why you're here. Also, just think about an adult that you know that's like a terrible human being. They didn't just, again, grow up and become a terrible human being. They lack emotional intelligence because they were never taught. The good thing is emotional intelligence is something that you can learn. And I am glad that you guys have been here. This is week 14 or 13 for us, something like that. And so I have done my best to try and give you guys the tips and tools and like the theories that you can go and take and use to improve, one, you, and then your relationships, whether that be platonic, romantic, relationships with your parents, any of that. So this is something that can be taught. And I think the best way to learn it is, instead of waiting until you are an adult, right? Teach your child now. Okay? Right? Think about how much further you may be in life. Maybe not even further, but how easy your life would be, or how much different your life would be if you had these skills earlier on. Right? If I knew how to communicate a lot, I would have saved myself a lot of heartbreak. If I knew how to set boundaries and assert myself without, feeling guilty or shutting down, right? Life would have been a lot easier, a lot sooner. So I am going to give you guys some tips and tools to help you become a good teacher for your children. Let's see what else I have down here. Why? Okay, I'll come back to that part. So let's jump in with if you guys have your journals, I want you to write this down. I'm going to ask you now, and then I'm going to ask you again at the end of class to see if your answer changes. I want you to think about what messages you received about emotions growing up. What things did your parent, your caregiver teach you about emotions growing up? Okay, so just think about that. We are going to come back to it. Your answer may change. Right now, you may say you don't know, but we'll talk more about things they may have taught you. Sometimes it's unintentional. Okay. One thing, there's a few things that if you don't remember anything else that I really want you to remember, here's the first thing. The first thing I want you to remember and write down if you can is that you are your child's first teacher. You shape how they see the world. You teach them pretty much everything they learn. Okay. Yes, there are other people that influence and all of that, but as a parent, you are your child's first teacher. And you either teach them what to do and what not to do. Sometimes those lessons are intentional, but sometimes those lessons are unintentional. And we're going to talk about that tonight too, because part of you becoming an emotionally safe space for your child, part of you helping your child become, or your children become, more emotionally intelligent is you healing. Right, so today's class, the title that I came up with is EQ for Parents, Raising Emotionally Intelligent Kids While Healing Yourself. Okay, so part of this is going to be self-reflective for you as well. So again, why does emotional intelligence matter? Why parenting? 3 reasons. 1, children learn how to handle emotions by watching how you respond to their emotions. Okay. Right. How you respond, it teaches them a lot. Right. For an example, we hear, or some people have heard, right? Don't cry. Crying is weakness. What does that teach you? That you're not supposed to have any type of emotions or feelings. Right? So everything you share with your child is a lesson. Either you're teaching them something good or something that's unhealthy. Okay, so that's the first reason why emotional intelligence matters with parenting, because children learn how to handle their emotions based on how you respond to their emotions. The second reason why emotional intelligence matter when parenting, your ability to regulate your own emotions teaches them how they should or how they shouldn't. And so if they see you blow up all the time and you cuss everybody out all the time, to them as a sponge, oh, that is how I'm supposed to react. That is how I'm supposed to communicate. I don't know. I'm brand new here on this earth. I've never experienced this before, but this is how my parents and my caregivers did this. Right? And again, I tell you, sometimes it's unintentional, and either you can tell them what to do and what not to do. Right? And so if you are a parent that is easily angered or irritated, you have to think about what it is you're teaching your child. And the third thing I want you to remember, or the third thing I think emotional intelligence is important when it comes to parenting, this is not about you being a perfect parent. You need to be a self-aware parent. You have to, or you should understand how you impact your children. How the way you talk to them becomes their inner voice. Right? Children don't need a perfect parent, but they do need a healthy one. Okay? And so long as you are mindful of your areas of growth, as long as you are willing to apologize, we're going to come back to that in a little while, right? The self-awareness is what's important. It's not about being perfect, because you're not going to be perfect. You're going to mess up, right? There is no manual to being a parent. People say it all the time. But as long as you are aware of how you show up and how you are parenting and how that impacts them, you are already an amazing parent. Okay? So because of the way some of us were raised, there may be some things that we have to unlearn. I saw earlier that somebody said they have been taught emotional suppression. A lot of us were, right? Crying makes you weak. Boys don't cry. Right? All of these things are emotional suppression. And they're also inaccurate, right? Your emotions are there to tell you something. I tell you guys this all the time. And so if you continue to suppress your emotions, how are you ever going to know what they're trying to tell you? If you're sad or if you're angry, right, they may be trying to tell you a boundary has been crossed. If you're anxious, they may be trying to tell you that you are in danger or there is pending danger. But if you just continue to suppress your emotions because that's what you have been taught, right, it's going to affect the way that you parent. Because if you suppress your emotions, I'm probably likely that you're going to suppress your child's emotions and those around you, and the cycle is just going to continue. Now, I will say I have been very proud of this generation of parents who are into the whole gentle parenting thing, and they are adamant about breaking curses and adamant about raising children that are more emotionally intelligent. The amount of times I see videos on social media with the child being able to articulate how they feel and quote unquote correct the parent respectfully, oh, it just makes me happy, right? The future is bright when I see those videos. Right. But you have to understand that there may be some things. Thank you, Courtney. There may be some things that you have to unlearn. Right. I just asked you, what were you taught, or what messages were you taught about emotions growing up? So let me know in the comments, what do you feel like you were taught about emotions? And it may not be an explicit lesson, right? It may be a side effect of just how your emotions were addressed or not addressed as a child, but how did you internalize the messages you received about emotions as a child? And the other thing is it something that you feel like you need to unlearn? I would say for me, crying was definitely one thing that I had to learn. I had to learn that it's okay to cry. That doesn't make me weak. I also had to learn that I don't have to have the answers. I don't have to have it all together. I don't allow people to call me a strong Black woman. Strong is a cuss word to me, Neil. But that's something that I had to unlearn. You were taught to speak about how you feel. That's amazing. You were silenced a lot, so your emotions confused you later in life. That's good. I'm glad that you start to unlearn it. All right. So just start to think about, things that you may need to unlearn as you are working on becoming a better parent and raising children that are emotionally intelligent. Okay. You said you being soft and vulnerable makes you weak, and say what's on your mind. But even with that, say what's on your mind, right? We've been learning that just because it's true, it doesn't need to be said. Right? There's ways to say things tactfully, and right, word choice matters, and your tone matters, and when you talk matters. But these are things that we aren't taught. Right? So just remember that there may be some things that you have to unlearn. Right? I said it before. Some of us were raised with messages like, "Boys don't cry," "Man up," "Stop crying before I give you something to cry about." Well, if I'm already crying, then don't I already have a reason to cry? Your parents weren't comfortable with showing or seeing emotions, so you sought refuge in your cousin. So do you and so your cousin helped you feel comfortable showing emotions? That's amazing that you had that other support. You struggled with revealing your true feelings out of fear that your caregivers would be upset. And so, Kiara, was there ever a time where you shared something with them and their response kind of put that fear inside of you? Yeah, that was a big one. You want me to give you something to cry for? Like, yeah, like I'm already crying. I already have something to cry for. Right? And what it does is it confuses you. Right? If I'm already crying, you're not giving me the opportunity, or you're not helping me learn why I'm crying or why I should not be crying. Right? You're just telling me to shut up. That's not teaching me how to understand my emotions and self-regulate. Again, there is no switch to just turn my emotions off, right? I told you guys that too. You have to let your emotions pass. So expecting a child to just shut up because you said shut up is crazy. And then you're going to beat them because they have emotions, because they're a human. Some of your family members weren't mindful of their tone when speaking, which made you fearful of telling them how you feel. That makes sense. That makes sense. And I think I've told you, well, I'll get back to that later on. So these messages, right? Everything that we were taught, they shape everything about us, right? We've already talked about attachment styles and how that shows up and impacts our relationships as adults, right? So how we were cared for in the first few years of our life impact how we form relationships as adults, right? I sent that replay today about attachment style. So if you didn't see that class, you can go back and watch that. It also has something to do with our triggers, right? Most of the time, or all the time, our emotional triggers are tied to a past experience. We had a class on that too, and thinking about and acknowledging where your triggers come from. All right. I told y'all this story before. I was working with a wife, and she came to me like, hey, my husband says like he feels like when he's talking to me is like childish, like tick for tat, like I have to have the last word, and he doesn't feel like I give him an opportunity to talk. And I asked more questions, and I asked her what her communication was like with her parents growing up. And she said she could talk to her mom, but her dad, it was his way, or like it was what he said went. You weren't allowed to say anything back to him, even if it was just trying to explain, whatever it was, right? Even if it wasn't disrespectful, she was never allowed to respond to her dad. And so now when her husband is talking to her, right, it triggers those feelings again for her. And so she feels like she has to overspeak and she has to speak up, and she's going to make sure that she is heard, because growing up, she was not. Right? She was essentially, it told her that her voice did not matter. How she felt did not matter. And so she tries to overcompensate for that now. All right. So these things that we were taught, we got to start to unlearn them once we realize that they are unhealthy and they are not conducive to the life we want to live, the person we want to be, the parent we want to be, the partner we want to be. Okay. So I told you guys that children learn how to identify and manage their emotions based on how you respond to their emotions. And so that means that you have to model emotional intelligence for them. Okay. I know that some people don't like to cry in front of children, but maybe that's what they need to see. I saw a video, one of these videos that made me smile, and it was like a mother and a child was driving home like on Mother's Day from the grandparents' house, and whatever happened with the grandparent made the mom upset. And the mom was like, I'm sorry for crying in front of you. And she was like, it's okay, mom, cry. Like, grandma really needs to go to therapy. Little girl's like 7 or 8 in the back seat. Like, grandma really needs to go to therapy. It's okay to cry. Like, she's not a nice person. I wish I could say something back to her, is what the little girl was saying to her. And so, right, you have to model emotional intelligence for them, because, again, you are teaching them how to deal with things, right? You are going to mess up. You probably should apologize to your kids sometimes. I've seen that conversation on social media a lot. Like, should you apologize to your child? Would you apologize to an adult? Yes. Children, like, we have had this idea that children are inferior to us as parents or grown-ups, and they do not deserve the same things that we do as adults. And so that is crazy, because they are still human. And so they may not understand as much as we do, but that does not mean that they don't deserve the same things. Emotions are a human thing. Like, you have them whether you're 2, 5, 50, or 100. And a child's feelings can be hurt just like an adult's feelings can be hurt. All right. Again, going back to apologize to your child is, modeling emotional intelligence for them. Right? If you are having a disagreement with your co-parent or, the other parent in the house or whomever, right? They are watching all of this, right? Just like they learn how to handle or identify their emotions, they also learn how to communicate from you. I remember talking to actually one of my guy cousins, and he was saying like he didn't know if he could continue to talk to this girl because she was like always yelling, cussing. Like, he wanted to have just a regular conversation. Whatever the issue is, let's talk about it. But she would always get so angry and yell and cuss. And he would say, like, look, that's not my thing. Like, I don't communicate that way. And she said, well, that's the only way I know how to communicate. That's like how I saw my mom communicate. And he's like, yeah, that's not going to work for me. You and your daughter cried together when your uncle passed. And I think that was a beautiful moment to share with her, and a very important lesson that she will probably never forget that. Even if it's not something that she learns consciously, that let her know it's okay to cry, right? You're teaching her how to handle grief, which is important, because how many people grow up, experience grief, and start acting completely different, or don't know what to do without, this person. They don't know what to do with their emotions, right? And emotions can definitely dictate our behavior, which we've also talked about that too. And so it's much more important, or it's better to be able to understand, process, and choose how to respond to your emotions, rather than allowing your emotions to just control you and you are reacting instead of responding. When it comes to modeling emotional intelligence for your children, okay, they learn more from what they observe than what you explicitly tell them. So here's what I want you to be mindful of. Name the emotion. Think about regulating, how you regulate your emotions in front of your children. And then how do you repair after you have a conflict? So let's say you're having a bad day at work, you come home, you ask the kids to get in the tub or do their homework or clean up, and they don't. You snap, you end up yelling. Okay? Afterwards, right, maybe you might need to go back and apologize, right? Maybe your response was not proportionate to whatever their behavior was, right? So like I said, 1, name the emotion. I feel frustrated because I asked you guys to clean up multiple times and you have not. I feel overwhelmed because I asked you to clean up and you didn't, and now I have to do it. Okay, so that's the first thing you want to do, or you can do, to model emotional intelligence for your children. And naming the emotion, it also helps them with their emotional vocabulary, right? Have you ever, as an adult, like, I know I don't feel okay, but I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know how to name the emotion. Yeah. Because people stick to like the core emotions: happiness, sadness, anger, and like shame or guilt, right? But there's a whole emotional wheel, which I have shown you guys, right? So start teaching them those other vocabulary, those other emotions that they may be experiencing, right? They may not be angry. They may be frustrated. They may feel guilty, right? So the more you can expand their vocabulary, and the sooner, the better. Okay? So when you're modeling emotional intelligence for your children, the first thing, name the emotion. The second thing, regulate. I need a second to calm down before I respond to you. Even if you're angry with them, I need a second. All right? That is also teaching them, like, okay, my mom didn't blow up on me. She took a moment to herself, and then she came back when she was in a better space. Regulating, teaching them, okay, if I'm having a moment at school, maybe I should also step away, get myself together, and then come back. And then repair after the conflict, right? Go and apologize. I apologize. I shouldn't have yelled at you like that. I saw a video the other day, and I saved it on here on TikTok. And I won't tell, because I want to get into some of this later. But the quick story. Is somebody at my door? Who was at my door? Hold on, guys. I'm sorry, guys. 1 second. Some man at my door. Okay, sorry. So the short part of the story, and I'll get more into it later. Her son's school called her saying that the son did something, and so when she went to go pick him up, she cussed him out like immediately. Come to find out, he did not do whatever the school said he did. And so the video that she made was like, she felt terrible, and she's like, I don't know what to do. Right? So you got to repair at the she made a mistake. Okay, she just took whatever the school said. I don't know if it was like the principal or whomever called her. Right? She took whatever they said. It made her upset, and as soon as she picked him up, she cussed. She said, I let him have it. And come to find out, he did not do it. And like, she was like almost in tears. She felt that bad for like pretty much cussing her son out. And so again, you're human. You're going to mess up sometimes. And you're going to have to apologize. Just like you would want somebody to apologize to you for hurting your feelings, or if they messed up. Because here's the other thing. If you don't apologize to your kids and you just start talking to them, what you teach them is that it's okay if people mistreat you, and it's okay to just continue the relationship, right? As a parent and child, obviously they have to continue the relationship until they're old enough to not. But think about that when they're adult and they're in a relationship. Well, my parent never apologized to me when they did anything wrong, so I shouldn't expect my partner to apologize. This is just how it goes. If somebody can do something to me, hurt my feelings, and whenever they're over it, they're over. We just keep. That's not healthy at all. Okay? So make sure that you are repairing after the conflict. After you make a mistake, after you, whatever it is, go and apologize. Okay? So that is how you model being emotionally intelligent for your children. Now, I will say one thing. Remember, I said you don't have to be a perfect parent, but you should be a self-aware parent. This is where this comes in again. There are some common triggers, like emotional triggers, amongst parents, or what that comes up when parenting. And so these may be yours, or there may be some other ones for you. But when a child is being disobedient, that may trigger your need for control or respect. If a child cries or has a meltdown, for you, that may trigger discomfort, or your discomfort with vulnerability, right? Somebody said that their parents weren't comfortable with seeing emotion. So if you were to ever cry in front of your parent, they will probably freeze. They don't know what to do. But again, that's a them thing, right? It triggers something for them. If your child throws a temper tantrum in public, you probably won't feel embarrassed. You might think people are judging you. The first one was when a child disobeys you, right? If they're being disobedient, they're not listening, right? It may trigger a need for you to be in control, or you want respect. All right, so I have some other ones here. I just said embarrassment, right? You may feel embarrassed if your child is misbehaving. And back to the story I was just telling you about, the parent that cussed the child out. She was embarrassed by what they said he did. So she didn't even wait to see if it was true. She, like, as soon as she heard what they said, they said that he was sending inappropriate pictures. Not of himself, but like, I don't think I could say that word, like adult videos, that he was texting adult videos. And she was like we talk about being inappropriate and what's appropriate all the time. And so she probably felt embarrassed and judged, right? Which is why as soon as she got to him, she cussed him out of her embarrassment. Okay. Another one. Sometimes parents feel disrespected if a child is not listening, if they try to talk back. But now we also have to remember that there are unhealthy parents that think any form of expression from a child is disrespectful, which is not. Right? There are ways for children to communicate their emotions and how they are feeling in a respectful way. Right? So, okay, we're not talking about the unhealthy version of that we may have encountered growing up. Okay. You may feel inadequate sometimes. Right? If you start to look at where your child is versus another child, or what another parent has done, and or maybe a child says, I wish that person was my mom and not you, right? It could at some point trigger some type of feeling of being inadequate. You may feel like you are losing control. Let's say you have a teenager that is becoming defiant. Right? Can trigger a loss of control for you. Right? So these are just some of the things that you can be mindful of. I'm not saying that all of these apply to you or any of them. But just think about how your reaction, or what your reaction comes from, like what triggered it. And is it really the kid, or is it something that is you? Feeling overwhelmed. I can imagine as if you are a single parent and you have to do everything. First of all, let me say this. I already think that parents are superheroes, especially if they are parents and they work outside the house. You are a superhero in my book. You absolutely have a right to be overwhelmed and all of the other things. Like I always think parents are superheroes. I don't think it's anything I want to do, but for sure y'all are superheroes. And so being overwhelmed, it makes sense, right? Just be mindful of how that spills over to your children, right? Are you acting irritated and irked just because they want some time and attention from you? Which I get it, right? You've been at work all day. They probably got on your nerves real bad at work. And now you got to come home and cook and do bedtime and do bath time and do homework. And they want some attention, or they just asking you something. And you may not, once you think about it, you may realize that, okay, it may not be a big deal. But in that moment, when you already have so much going on, you're juggling so many things, and let alone, don't let you not be feeling well as well. Right? All of these things, right? But again, any little thing, now you might snap. Again, you're human. Your emotions are valid. What is important is how you repair and how you show them you handle those moments. Okay. Guilt. I think this is a good one. The first thing that came to mind to use as an example, I have had conversations with moms that feel guilty about the child's father, or the lack of the child's father presence in the child's life. And so that may cause them to maybe try to overcompensate, right? The reaction is not always a negative reaction, right? But guilt is another common emotion that is triggered with parenting. Fear is a good one. You fear for your child's safety. So maybe you become a helicopter parent, right? You don't let them do as much because you are afraid that it's a crazy world out here, right? And so the best way to keep them safe is to keep them with you, right? So again, some of these may apply to you or none of them may apply to you. There may be other emotions that are triggered for you. I have a friend that when she gets anxious, she gets impatient, right? And so then it's like a disproportionate again towards the children, but it's because you're anxious about something that probably has nothing even to do with the children. But the way that her anxiety shows up with the children, right, is with anybody, but with children is worse because they don't understand. Me, I don't give a about her attitude when she's anxious, right? But I'm also me, right? I understand her. A child does not have that same level of understanding. Okay. So just think about emotions that, or the triggers or the past experiences that may be triggering your emotions and triggering certain responses towards your children. And again, it may or may not even have anything to do with your children directly. But just think about it, right? If you were not kept safe as a child, that may trigger fear, and you may be very selective about who gets to watch your kids. In that situation, it's probably not a bad thing. Now, if you become a helicopter parent and your child is never to ever, even as a teenager or as they grow up, never to do anything and experience anything, right? Now, maybe that's a little bit too far because now they're sheltered and they don't know how to function in the world. Okay, so again, just things that I want you to start to think about and be mindful of. And as you are recognizing, what past experiences influence your parenting, all right, ask yourself, is this something that I need to unlearn, or, any of that? One question that I like to ask, like when I am getting to know a new guy, one question that I like to ask, like when I am getting to know a new guy, a question that I ask is, do you want to raise your children the way that you were raised or differently? Because their response is going to tell me a whole lot about how they were raised and whether or not it was healthy, or they consider it healthy, or they consider it unhealthy and they want to make changes, right? But that tells me if they were raised in an unhealthy environment and they recognize that and they want to do better, green flag. Okay. So just start to think. I said one question that I ask when I'm getting to know a guy, I ask them, like, do they want to raise their children, or are they raising their children if they already have it? If they already have children, do they want to, or are they raising their children the same way they were raised or differently? And that gives me insight to, one, how they were raised and whether or not it was healthy, whether or not they think it was healthy. And if it wasn't healthy, do they want to do things differently? Which would be a green flag. Okay. And so when you feel like you are triggered, ask yourself, like, what part of me is activated right now? Like, what is it? What's the trigger? Why am I feeling like this? Why was that my response to this? Like I said, a lot of times it goes back to your own childhood experiences or past experiences, right? It comes from somewhere. It's not just made up. You may not recognize where it comes from immediately, but when you sit and think about it, right? We also did a class on emotional triggers, so maybe go back and watch that, and that may help you to identify where what is connected to in your past. But just got to be mindful. I think the other thing I would say is, while it is important to be emotionally intelligent for your children, I think you have to do it for yourself first. And I know this is something hard to receive as a parent, but you have to be your priority. And I know that we get so caught up in the day-to-day and people depending on us and we have to work, that we don't have time to check in with ourselves. We don't even have time to think about how we feel. Because even if I do recognize that something is wrong, I don't have the capacity to deal with that right now. I don't have the luxury of laying in bed and being sad all day. I still got to make it happen. And so that is part of the reason why I really wanted to do the self-aware summer that I'm doing inside of my membership community. So starting June 1st, for 4 months, we are digging deep, right? This is what I'm trying to do, is create an opportunity for you to come and at least once a week, dedicated to you, right? The things that you have been ignoring, bottled up, that you just put in a box and push to the side. That's not really pushed to the side because everything resurfaces just in different ways, right? I want to help you unpack those things. If you unpack them, you can put them where they need to be and you really deal with it, right? So that's really like the point behind this self-aware summer that I'm doing with my membership community this summer. Like, so you can absolutely still join us. I hope you guys do decide to join us, but this is your moment to be present for yourself, right? Class, again, we're gonna have class at least once a week, right? That's all I'm asking you to give yourself is an hour a week. There'll be daily journal prompts, but that's flexible. You can do that whenever, either in the morning or at night. But class is once a week, right? Just show up. Just give yourself an hour is all I'm asking for. And I promise that it will make a huge difference in your life. Because like I said, here, I'm giving you tips and theories. But this summer, we're really going to get into it. We're going to figure out why you are parenting the way that you're parenting. Why do you show up the way that you show up? And what do you need to do about it? Okay, so parents, even if you don't join me this summer, right, at least give yourself some time. Right? You've probably heard you can't pour from an empty cup. And that's not just about like rest, right? You can go to sleep and still wake up tired because you have so many things that you are juggling and so many things that are on your mind, right? And just give yourself just a little bit of time, just to even if it's just journaling, doing a brain dump at the end of the day, write it down on a piece of paper, right? That's even at least a little bit of relief so that you don't have to hold everything in. At least get it out on paper. Right? But you deserve to be a priority. You deserve, like, if you raggedy and you worn out, how you going to be a good parent? How you going to show up for him? Right? Now you are triggered all the time. Now you are overwhelmed all the time. Now you are angry and out of, right? Because you're human. But the more time you take for yourself, the more time you take to, address your own things, the healthier you will be as a parent. Okay. So let's talk about creating a safe space for your children. Okay. So there are a few things that I think goes into. It's never too late. Like, even though they're empty nesters, right? People, they still need you. And you can still become healthier and grow. It's never too late. Even if they're not in a household with you. Shoot, I'm 30. I just moved back in with my parents. Like, it's never too, not that they're coming back. I'm not saying that yours are coming back. But I'm just saying, like, you never know. Like, it's never too late. You can start to implement these things now. They may not need you in the same way, but it still works for any relationship. Okay. So different things that I think go into creating an emotionally safe space for your children. One thing I would say, let your children know that no feeling is good or bad, right? Don't teach them to judge their feelings, right? How some of us were taught that being sad is a weakness. It's not bad. Or you should feel bad for crying. Don't teach them that. Because when you teach to judge your feelings, or you judge their feelings, right? Because then they just adopt that as their own voice. now not only do I have to deal with the underlying emotions, now I got to deal with the emotions that I put on top of it. So not only am I sad, but now I feel bad that I feel sad. And that's two different, now that's a whole nother level of things that I have to work through. It's just, no feelings are good or bad. No emotions are good or bad. It is what it is. That's what I had to tell myself. Like when I was learning, like, okay, crying doesn't make me weak. And I still, to this day, sometimes I have to tell myself, it is what it is. I'm experiencing whatever emotion I am experiencing, right? This is part of me validating, right, that my emotions are valid. Right? These are the things that I'm telling you, I promise you guys, I had to learn myself. Right? I had to learn that how I feel matters, right? But I had to convince myself first. With children, right, because you are teaching them, right, this is why, right, it's important for you to be mindful of this, because now you know these things for yourself. Now teach it to your child so that they don't have to wait till they're adults, 30 something years old, trying to unlearn this stuff. Okay, so it's not good or bad. They shouldn't feel like that little girl told them, it's okay that you're crying. She's like, I feel bad that I'm crying in front of you. The little girl said, cry, Mom. It's okay. Because it is. It is what you, emotions are a natural reaction. You cannot stop them. So don't judge them, right? So I think that's one tip you can do to create an emotionally safe space. Why are you crying? Because I'm sad. Okay. Right. And think about how that may look. It may not look like you saying that's dumb or that's stupid, right? It may look like boys don't cry. That's weak when you cry, right? Sometimes the practice is not as explicit. So that's the first thing. Help them to name their emotions. Oh, are you sad? Are you angry? And they may not know right off the bat, depending on how old they are. They may not, some grown people don't know. But the more you ask them, the more you can explore that with them. Maybe sometimes get them a wheel of emotions. I've shown you guys this before. I use it with adults, so for sure children may need it. And you guys should. And again, at 5, they may not understand all of the emotions, but they know if they feel good or if they don't feel good. And the more that you talk to them and have these conversations with them, so they have you can find it online, and print it out for free. We've talked about this too. Naming your emotions, right? Maybe you have to get the wheel out. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. So encourage them to name what they're feeling and how they're expressing it. Okay. Don't punish them for being honest, right? Somebody said that their parents weren't comfortable with their vulnerability, right? If they say you hurt my feelings or I don't like something, validate that. Right? Validate how they're feeling. Again, I tell you this all the time. Validation is one of the most important things. Now, I've always told you this in the context of adult relationships, romantic relationships, but it works. I told y'all this stuff works for every relationship, even children. Make space for them, right? Of course, the younger they are, they may not know how to express their emotions in a healthy way. Crying is how babies communicate, right? Or even toddlers. So maybe you give them that moment to cry. I tell you this all the time. You can't be emotional and logical at the same time. So expecting your child to shut up and listen to you or to stop talking, they can't. Their brain doesn't allow it. Let them cry. Maybe you have a corner. Okay, if you feel like you really need to cry, let's go to the corner. Maybe let's go upstairs. Go to your room for a second. And then we can come down and come back and have a conversation. right? But think about healthy ways they can get it out. And even if the way that they have expressed their emotions is not healthy, right? Maybe they threw a temper tantrum and they knocked something over, like they got angry or frustrated or whatever, and pushed the bookshelf over, whatever it is, I don't know, or hit somebody or bit somebody or smacked the teacher in the face, right? Again, this is new to them. They don't know how to express it. But once they are in a better state, that's when you have the conversation. It's okay for you to be sad. It's okay for you to be angry. It's not okay for you to hit. It's not okay for you to be mean. Can we think of another way you could have expressed your anger? Or another way that you're going to do it next time, right? Maybe the next time you're angry, you take a pillow and you throw it against the wall, or you scream into the pillow, or right? This is, again, teaching them how to self-regulate. They don't know how to. All they know how to do is cry. Some people still just cry as adults, cry babies, right? But helping them to learn healthier ways, right? And you maybe when they're younger, you make the suggestion, but as they get older, ask them, what are some healthier ways we could have expressed that? Okay, maybe busting his windows out wasn't the best decision, right? How do we go about this the next time? Okay. I told y'all this already. Apologize to them. Show them that adults get it wrong too. It also shows accountability. If you never apologize to your child, how do they learn accountability? How do they learn that when they mess up that they should apologize? Okay. Other ways to create a emotionally safe space for your children. Respond instead of react. This is taking the time to reflect, to gather yourself before you respond. Don't just be out here snapping, beating your kids. I don't know why this always does it as if we're not talking. Right? Make sure you are responding. Right? That parent, the video that I showed you about the school called home and she got embarrassed, and as soon as she picked him up, she cussed him out. She never took time to stop. She never even asked him a question. Is it true? Let me see your phone. Immediately, whatever they said that he did, she felt embarrassed. She jumped straight into cussing him out. She never took time to reflect. Right? And I think you also have to, when you take that time to reflect, you also should think about the best way to respond to this. Because let's say he did what they said he did, right? Let's say he did send the inappropriate videos. What did cussing him out do to him? How did that teach him that wasn't okay? That didn't teach him that he shouldn't do that. You just called me names. Right? So taking time to pause, reflect what's going on. Maybe there is something that is going on with him. Maybe, right, that is an indication. I don't want to say bad stuff, but right, your child's behavior could be an indication that something else is going on. And so if you beat them because of whatever, you're missing an opportunity to understand your child. Right? What if, and I don't wish this on anybody, but what if he was sending inappropriate videos because an adult showed him inappropriate videos? And you missed that opportunity to learn that about your child and their experience, and to you missed the opportunity to protect your child in the future. right? So you have to think about how to respond. I saw another terrible video today. This woman beat her child because I think she said he was 5. It was the sister making the video, and he was 5 and he was skipping a number. Like the mom was working on him with numbers and he kept skipping a certain number. She was so frustrated, like she actually beat him too. Let's say the last part did not happen. How does beating him teach him the number that he missed? Right? So again, we talked about coming up with conflict resolution. Last week, we talked about that. Same thing with children. Like you were just so frustrated that he skipped a number and he's 5. That was your response. And again, right? That is drastic. Most people are probably not doing that on a day-to-day. However, right? But it's still an example of how you need to take time to pause and reflect and think about, okay, what's the best way to answer this? If you are just going to scream and yell and, at your kids, you might be missing out on important information. Right? I done got caught doing some things and got in trouble, but nobody ever asked me why I did it. Had they asked why, I could have explained. Or maybe I probably wouldn't have said it this way, but now looking back, I would have explained that I don't know how to assert myself. I lack boundaries. I don't know how to stand up for myself. Right? And so again, this is not to say that you should not also punish your child, right? There has to be consequences. But I would just say, make sure that the consequence is appropriate. Okay. Yeah. So pause before responding. What is it that your child is trying to communicate? Again, if they don't know how to communicate, they may be acting out. Something else may be going on. All right. So this is why you want to stay curious and not critical. Right? If the parent that cussed her child out when she picked him up from school, had she stayed curious, she would have asked, why would you do this? What did you send? And she would have found, because after she cussed him out, she went through the phone. That's how she found out that he didn't actually do it. Right? She went through everything and he was like kind of confused. And she was like, and he just sat there and let me cuss him out. And afterwards he was like, I didn't do it. Right? So staying curious, asking questions, not jumping to the other person's defense. Like I would say, be empathetic, right? Get all of the facts. The same thing on the other side, right? Maybe you don't always jump to your child's defense either, right? Because there's some parents that go up to the school and it's always the child, always on the child's side. Sometimes your child did do something. Sometimes they did, right? But being able to stay calm in those moments, to gather all of the information before coming up with conclusions, before deciding what to do, is important, right? That also, when you're able to kind of stay level-headed, it also lets your child know that they can come and talk to you about any and everything. Because if I came and talked to you about something, or let's say I got caught doing something, and the response was for me to get cussed out, the response for me was to get a beating, for me to get grounded, I'm never telling you anything again. Right? And that's not what you want. You want to make sure that you are keeping those lines of communication open. Because what you don't want to happen is for your child to be out somewhere and to be in trouble and they're scared to call you. Right? We can figure out whatever it is later. I just need to make sure that you're safe. Right? And so you want to make sure that you are creating that emotional safe space. You want to make sure that your child can come and talk to you about any and everything. Like any and everything. So you guys got to stop the automatically reacting because you feel embarrassed, because you are, right? Take a chill pill. Again, I'm not saying that there aren't consequences, but at that moment, cussing them out might not be, that's not what they need at that moment, right? You got to also understand your child. Everybody does something for a reason, and a child just may not be able to articulate why they do something, right? But that's what you're there for, right? To teach them how to process what's going on. Okay. So, picking how you respond, staying curious, keeping that line of communication open. I think I told y'all this before. I think I was in like 6th grade when I came home and told my mom I had a little boyfriend at school, and she told me that was ridiculous. Never told her anything else ever in my life, and I'll be 37 this year. Never ever. You don't need a boyfriend. That was her. That's actually what she said. You don't need a boyfriend. That's ridiculous. I mean, it was harmless, right? 6th grade. But when I tell you I have never, ever, I have never, like she'd be asking like, do you date? I do. But when I tell you nothing else, never ever, nothing else. Like she'd be saying now, like, I don't know your friends anymore. Like when I tell you nothing else, never shared anything else. Anything. Like how people be like, oh, me and my mom locked in, we best friends. I go to my mom, but never again in 30 years. Well, I guess that wasn't quite 30 years. I don't know how old you are in 6th grade, but literally never again have I, right? Because I felt dismissed. I felt bad based on her response. So, right, you want to make sure that you are keeping that line of communication open. And again, probably not intentional. I'm sure she would probably wouldn't mind me telling her what's going on in my life, but I don't, because you already made me feel some type of way when I was in 6th grade. Right? Now, your children may not be like that, but they might. Okay? So keep that line of communication open. Don't be so quick to anger or to judge or, whatever it is. Like, gather all of the facts, help them process, understand what made you do this. Why did you do that? Like, what do you need from me at this moment? Right? They may not be able to answer that question, but right, that's something for you to figure out. Do I need to be doing something differently? Do I need to parent differently? I got 2 older brothers. I'm the only girl. She should have parented me differently. She was tired by my parents was older when they had me. They was 39 when they had me. They was tired by the time I got to be a teenager. They should have parented me differently, for sure. Right? But nobody ever took time to ask questions or to figure that part out. And yeah, I got myself into some stuff. Okay? So, you don't want to be like that. All right? I'm speaking from this side, right? As if I am the child speaking to the parents. That's not what we want. We want to be able to come and talk, right? Luckily, I've had my best friend's mom, right? But we want that opportunity to come and share and talk. We don't know what we're doing. You want to leave us up to talk to our friends? They don't know either. That's dangerous. Over it. Yep. And so it's like, if you are not this safe space for your child, if you are not the one teaching your children, who are they learning from? I hope you're not leaving it up to the internet. These people, these kids in their class. Like, that is one thing I commend my best friend on. Like, so my goddaughter is 16. She'll be 17 this year. And they have like a really good open relationship. And they could talk about any and everything. And I always commend her on that. Right? Like the stories that my goddaughter comes and tell us about the other students in her class. Of course, we don't judge the kids like when she's telling us, but Jesus Christ. I would probably be in a mental hospital if that was my child. And if you aren't that safe space, that's who they learn from. I'd probably learned a lot of things that I shouldn't have from my classmates and my friends. Like, probably not my friends, but like other people. Right? So you want to make sure that you remain the teacher. And always validate their experience. I tell you guys that all the time. It's okay that you're sad. It's okay that you're angry. It's okay that you're grieving. Right? It's okay that you, whatever. Always validate it. Now, they may not have expressed it or handled it the best way, right? But that's another conversation for later. But in this moment, I understand why you're sad. I understand why you're disappointed. I understand why you're frustrated. All right, so always validate. Okay. We talked about this already. Repair after rupture. All parents mess up. It doesn't matter, right? What matters is how you repair, right? Apologize. That's how you teach kids that it is safe to make amends, right? So here's the other thing that you may teach your child if you do not apologize. Or even how you handle things with your co-parent. Like if every time you and your co-parent or their whomever have an argument and one leaves, that's not teaching them how to resolve conflict. To them, that's teaching them that, oh, something's wrong. It's time to go. So now as an adult, they don't know how to handle conflict. And so something is wrong. It's time for them to go. Okay. What else? Safe to mess up and make amends. That's also how you form healthier relationships, right? This is how we get through things. Because no relationship is going to be perfect. There's going to be issue in everything. I was so conflict averse. So I will say this. I know I've been given examples of like more unhealthy behavior, but on the flip side of that, my parents have been married, the end of June will be 51 years they've been married. I have never seen them argue. Never seen them raise their voice, never seen any of that. And so even though I didn't have an unhealthy experience, I still did not learn how to handle conflict. Right? I saw my dad allow people call him by the wrong name and did not correct them. What did that teach me? I mean, people didn't call me the wrong name, but I never knew how to assert myself or stand up, or I would go to the hairdresser and didn't like it and I wouldn't say anything. Right? So you are always teaching your children, sometimes unintentionally. Right? I made that video earlier today that I was cleaning out my dad's closet and my dad wore a suit every day. So to me now, right, my idea of a man is in a suit. That's harmless, but sometimes the things we teach our children unintentionally are not as harmless. So for those of you that feel like you might need a script or, something to use when you need to go and apologize to your children, here's one for you. Again, I told you, right? I was feeling really overwhelmed and I yelled. That wasn't okay. You didn't deserve that. You didn't deserve that. That was right. It was a me thing, not you. I apologize for that. I apologize for losing my temper. I've just been really frustrated at work and you asked me a question at the wrong time. Next time I'll make sure that I take time or let you know that I need time. Okay. Other things too. I feel like we've gone over most of these. Using an emotional wheel to build their vocabulary. Maybe you have a calm down corner or something else. There's a pillow that they can go punch or whatever it is. You guys got to get creative. This is okay. Here's one we did not go over. Set boundaries with compassion. I do love you, but the answer is no right now. I understand why you're upset about, but it's still time to go to bed. I understand you want more time on your iPad, but we still have to go to bed. It's okay that you're upset about that, but okay. I know you frustrated. I know you wanted more time with whatever. Let's see what other thing. We covered most of this. Conflict resolution with children. Validate their emotions even when they're upset at you. I understand that you're upset that I said no, or I understand that you're upset that you gotta go to bed. That makes sense. Just validate it. I get it. I used to like to stay up too. And I know you feel like I don't let you go out and hang out with your friends unsupervised. I understand your frustration. Just validate. Ask questions, right? Don't jump to conclusions. It had that woman asked her son about whatever the teacher said or the principal said. She could have saved herself that the embarrassment that she is feeling now. What else? Of course, I tell you guys this all the time. Use I statements, right? A lot of the things that I am telling you are things that we have talked about over the last few weeks in the context of romantic relationships. It applies to children too. Right? It's just that the children lack emotional intelligence because they've never been there before. But some of you guys are in a relationship with a partner that lacks emotional intelligence too. Right? So it's the same stuff. They're just children and they're just little humans. It just may take a little bit more to teach them or to help them. But same stuff. Children are so much more forgiving. That's very true. Take advantage of it. Not advantage of, but you know what I mean. Be grateful that when you apologize, they will likely welcome you back open arms, because I don't care about your apology. So let's see, what else do I have on here? I think this. Okay, last thing. Two more things that I want to address. What time is it? Okay, 9:30. A couple of more things that I want to. Maybe it's 3. Helping your child to become self-aware and teaching them how to problem solve on their own. Don't do everything for your child. And I know that is easier said than done, especially when they are younger. Right? We try to jump in and just do it for them. But that doesn't teach them how to problem solve. And so if they are so used to you always doing something, it doesn't develop that part of their brain, that critical thinking part. So now when you're not there, when they're away at college, when they're out in the real world, my mom used to tell me how to do everything. So I don't even, and then, of course, they may not say it like that, but their brain has been trained to, I don't have to figure it out. Somebody else is going to figure it out for me. But when you become an adult, you got to figure it out on your own. And so it's best to start developing those skills younger rather than as an adult. Right? So try not to do everything for them. Right? And of course, it's within age appropriateness. But let them figure it out. Sometimes they got to bump their heads. Especially once they become teenagers. What do you think would happen if you did that? Right? Let's talk through this. Right? Teaching them how to problem solve, how to process things. What do you think you should do? All right. Teach that to them now. so that they don't grow up and they are relying on other people and they get on this internet like, oh, what should I do? Drives me nuts, right? You should know how to validate your own emotions. You should know how to process your own emotions and know what your emotions are telling you, and not rely on people that don't know you, that you've given this much information to tell you what to do. Right? And so what you're doing when you are teaching them the problem solving skills, you are building confidence in them. Right? They learn how to grow up and make decisions for themselves. They don't need other people to make decisions for them. Once they are confident, they don't grow up to be manipulated. They know how to validate their own emotions. You're not going to be able to pull the wool over their eyes. Nobody's going to be able to dismiss them or gaslight them because they already know, oh no, I know how to process my own emotions. I know how I feel is accurate. Right? So, again, things that we probably have not learned until we were older, if at all yet. Right? But teaching it to your child, right? It also teaches them how to do like a risk assessment. Okay, if I do this, X might happen. If I do this, Y might happen. Which one do you think you should go with? And especially as they get older, I think it is important to put the child in the driving seat. I had a conversation with a parent. She called me because she was frustrated. I think her child had barely graduated high school, and she had been trying to get her into all of these like enrichment programs and like so she can go to college and all of that. And the daughter did not want to go to college. And she's like, I just don't know what to do. I've tried this program. I've tried that program. I did this. I did that. And I had to stop her. I said, but what does your daughter want? What does she want? And I'm like, once your child becomes a certain age, I think her daughter was like but somewhere between like 18, 19. And at some point, you have to put them in the driver's seat. This is their life. And I know that it is hard because you want what's best for them. But I always say, how do you know what's best? Like, so for those parents that like to like dictate their child's career and what they should and should not do and who they should and should, why are you the person that gets to dictate what's best for them? Because if you have been teaching them and raising them to be emotionally intelligent, they are self-aware enough to know what's healthy for them or what they want to do or what they don't want to do. Right? So you gotta take a step back at some point, right? And you've done what you could, and you become the supporting role, right? Again, it teaches them confidence. It teaches them how to navigate this world. You're there if they need you, right? You got their back, but let them make a decision. Some people out here, they gotta bump their heads. You got some kids that will listen to you and they take your advice and they take heed to what you say. And you got some other kids that they got to fall in their face a couple times. Of course, within reason, right? I'm not saying let them go and do something that is going to land them in jail or, alter their whole life, right? But if it's something is just a learning opportunity, sometimes you have to let your child do that. Right? At some point, they have to learn to start thinking for themselves. Right? Teach them how to be self-aware. Teach them how to find their interests. Teach them how to identify the things that they're good at. Teach them how to identify things that they maybe are not good at. Right? Again, the best thing you can do is teach. And then once you have taught them, you become the supporting role. All right, this is how you create an emotionally intelligent child that is a productive citizen of society. When you have, I guess it's not even just smaller children, right? Explain the why behind what you are telling them, especially when they are younger. So instead of don't touch that because you might get electrocuted, right? They are, even at a young age, when you explain the why behind what they're doing, oh, okay, my parents telling me not to do this because I might get hurt, instead of, oh, my parents just telling me not to do this. Yes, so this topic is emotional intelligence for parents, how to raise emotionally intelligent children, and in the process, you might have to heal for yourself. Okay, so work on, and the why is sometimes not as, doesn't come as natural to us, because sometimes we want to say because I said so, and sometimes that is the answer, right? But when you can explain the why behind it, I recommend that you do, because again, it is helping them with the problem solving skills. Okay, I see that my parent is not just saying no to say no, they're saying no because of this risk assessment. This is the thing they want me to avoid. And so now when they are faced with a similar decision on their own, what would my mom say? What would my dad say in this moment? Okay. Instead of don't run, right? Let's walk so that you don't slip and fall. And that's I know that is not easy, an easy adjustment to make right away. Right. But just start to, when you can, think about it. Even if you don't remember to explain why in that moment, maybe the next day you think about it, like, I didn't explain why. Or do you know why I said you couldn't do X, Y, and Z? Again, this is all about age appropriate. Are you going to have this long, drawn out conversation with a 2-year-old? Maybe not, right? Maybe that is just a don't touch that, you might get hurt. But when you can remember, explain it. And I think that's all that I have for you guys. Let me see. Oh, this is a good one. So no matter how much you love and protect them, your child will face peer pressure, rejection, failure, and big emotions that they don't know how to handle. And so emotional intelligence equips them to handle life's hardest moments without shutting down, without lashing out, or without turning to unhealthy coping mechanisms. Yeah, I think that is all that you laying on my tripod. That is all that I have for you guys tonight. Any questions, comments, anything about tonight's topic? I will put the replay up on YouTube. If you are on the email list, you will get an email once it is posted. If not, you'll just have to check back. Like I said, we have 2 more classes. Next week, I want to do emotional intelligence for men. And so kind of debunking the myths around men and emotions, and then how women can help to facilitate an emotionally safe space for them. So that will be next week. And then the last class is just probably be a conversation, a recap. Yeah. Awesome. I'm glad this was helpful for you guys. Again, if you got questions, let me know. If not, I will see you guys next week. My membership people, I will see you guys on Tuesday for our guided session. If you guys are not in my membership community, I would love to have you. So the membership community is a monthly subscription. So they watch the classes on Zoom. They also get the handouts. They get the notes. They get extra exercises after these next 2 weeks, we are transitioning to the self-aware summer. So that is going to be where we dive deeper into all of the things that we've been talking about here. So while here, I give you guys the theories, do 1, 2, 3, 4. This summer, we are actually digging deep. I'm getting in your business. And so we're going to identify those areas of growth and how you can actually improve. So if you're interested, the link to my membership community is in my bio. If you have questions about it, feel free to send me a DM. I hope some of you will join me because I am not teaching on Hillman Talk this summer. This was a long 15 weeks. So I hope that you guys will continue with me in the membership community. I would love to continue to work with you guys. But that's all I have. If you guys don't have any questions, I will see you next week. You are welcome.